The 6-0 bagel, the 1-hour 20-minute dismantling, and the Olympic gold medalist who had no mercy. But when Alex Eala finally broke her silence, her explanation wasn't about her opponent. It was about something far more painful. I couldn't feel my legs. The words sent a chill through the Toronto press room. After 3 straight nights of 12,500 fans roaring her name, after 11 matches as across 3 tournaments, after a medical timeout for a rolled ankle, the Filipina superstar had finally hit the wall. Her shocking loss to Belinda Bencic wasn't just about the Swiss star's brilliance. It was about a body that had simply given out. What did Eala reveal about the true cost of her historic summer run? The 10,000-plus Filipino fans who had packed Sobeys Stadium for 3 straight nights had come to witness history. Instead, they watched their champion run out of fuel. When the final point landed and the scoreboard read 6-4, 6-0, the stunned silence that followed was almost as loud as the roar that had preceded it. Alex Eala's 7-match winning streak, the best stretch of her career, had come to an end at the hands of Tokyo Olympic gold medalist Belinda Bencic. The match lasted just 1 hour and 13 minutes. Eala managed only 8 points in the entire second set. But when she finally broke her silence, the explanation wasn't about her opponent. It was about something far more painful. After 3 weeks of grueling tennis, Eala's body had simply given out. In her post-match press conference, she didn't make excuses. But she was brutally honest about the physical toll her historic summer run had taken. "I am as tired as one can be at this stage," she admitted. The signs of fatigue had been visible throughout the match. Her movement was less sharp than it had been in recent performances, and she continued to struggle with her serve. Bencic broke Eala in 6 of her 8 service games. The Swiss star won the final 8 games of the match in a row after Eala had leveled the first set at 4-4. The physical toll of the past 2 weeks was undeniable. Eala had played 8 matches in roughly 12 days, winning 7 of them in hugely impressive fashion. She had barely had time to recover after winning her maiden WTA 500 title at the DC Open just days earlier. Her body was sending signals that it needed rest, and Bencic was the one who exposed that vulnerability. "It's always tough, of course, after a loss," Eala said, her voice steady but carrying the weight of exhaustion. "I'm looking back at these past 2 weeks as a really big positive. I think I've played really well. I've gotten through so many obstacles." But even in defeat, Eala refused to make excuses. She acknowledged the fatigue, but she also recognized that the physical demands are simply a huge part of our job. She was counting her blessings and already looking ahead to her next challenge. The real reason for the Toronto loss wasn't just Bencic's brilliance. It was a body that had been pushed to its absolute limit. And when a champion runs on empty, even the most determined spirit can't overcome the weight of exhaustion. The numbers are staggering, and they tell the real story of why Alex Eala's legs finally gave out in Toronto. 11 matches in 14 days, 3 tournaments, 2 countries. One body pushed to its absolute limit. The summer of 2026 will be remembered as the moment Alex Eala announced herself to the world. But it will also be remembered as the moment her body finally said, "Enough." Just days before her Toronto run, Eala had completed one of the most grueling title runs in WTA history. At the Mubadala DC Open, she played 5 matches in 5 days, defeating Olympic gold medalist Zheng Qinwen, defending champion Leylah Fernandez, world no. Tenelina Svitolina, 4-time Grand Slam champion Naomi Osaka, and world number 3 Jessica Pegula. The final against Pegula featured a 20-hour rain delay, forcing Eala to return to the court Monday after starting Sunday. She won the match 4-6, 6-4, 6-0, blanking the world number 3 in the final set. But there was no time to celebrate. Barely 24 hours after lifting the trophy in Washington, Eala was on a plane to Toronto. The Canadian Open began just days after the DC Open final. She received a first-round bye as the 25th seed, but her run through the draw was anything but easy. She battled past American Alicia Parks in a 3-set thriller, 6-1, 4-6, 6-2. Then came Caddy McNally in a match that pushed her to her absolute limits. 6-3, 5-7, 6-4 in 2 hours and 39 minutes. The McNally match was where the cracks began to show. Midway through the second set, Eala rolled her right ankle on a forehand follow-through. She called for a medical timeout, had her ankle taped, and returned to the court. But the tape felt wrong. She removed it and fought through the pain to complete the victory. The physical toll was evident. By the time she faced Belinda Bencic, Eala had played 11 matches in 14 days. A grueling schedule that would test even the most seasoned veterans. The math was simple: 11 matches in 14 days across 3 tournaments. Her DC Open title run included 5 matches, some lasting over 2 hours. Her Toronto campaign included 3 matches, plus the first-round bye. In total, she had spent over 15 hours on court in just 2 weeks. The fatigue from consecutive matches and the ankle injury she sustained in the previous round appeared to have caught up with Eala. Bencic, who had also played 3 matches in Toronto, looked fresher, sharper, and more prepared. The irony was painful. Just a week earlier, Eala had been the one winning the final 8 games of the match. Against Pegula, she had won the last 6 games of the third set to complete her comeback. Now, Bencic was doing the same to her. The Swiss star won the final 8 games of the match after Eala had leveled the first set at 4-4. The student had become the teacher, and the lesson was brutal. The tape was on. The ankle was wrapped. And for a moment, the 10,000 fans packed into Sophie's Stadium held their breath. But the injury that forced Alex Eala to call for a medical timeout wasn't the real problem. It was a warning sign of something far deeper. The moment came during the second set of her third-round match against Caddy McNally. Eala, who had taken the first set 6-3 and was leading 2-1 in the second, landed awkwardly after a forehand and rolled her right ankle. The stadium fell silent. The physio rushed onto the court. Eala called for a medical timeout and had her ankle taped. "I hit the forehand and I landed kind of wrong," Eala would later explain. "I called the physio, and I think I was like, oh, I don't know what happened because it happened so fast. But luckily, there's nothing wrong with it. And there were no serious problems. But the tape felt wrong." After a few points, Eala made a bold decision. She had the tape removed. The move proved decisive. Moving more freely, she found her rhythm again and pushed through to complete a gritty 6-3, 5-7, 6-4 victory after 2 hours and 39 minutes. However, the medical timeout was a symptom, not the cause. By the time she stepped onto the court against Belinda Bencic, Eala had played 8 matches in roughly 12 days, winning 7 of them. She had barely had time to recover after winning her maiden WTA 500 title at the DC Open just days earlier. The signs of fatigue were visible throughout the match against Bencic. Her movement was less sharp, her first serve percentage dropped to 46%, and she struggled to keep pace with the Swiss veteran. "Today was physically, it pushed me a lot," Eala had said after the McNally match, already feeling the weight of her grueling run. "I am as tired as one can be at this stage." The ankle injury was a warning sign. The exhaustion was the real problem. The medical timeout against McNally wasn't the cause of Eala's loss to Bencic. It was a symptom of the physical toll that had been building for 2 weeks. The ankle was fine. The body was not. And when she finally faced an opponent who could exploit that vulnerability, the fairy tale finally ran out of pages. The crowd was ready to explode. The 12,500 Filipinos packed into Sophie's Stadium were waiting for their champion to deliver a moment of magic. But what they witnessed instead was a masterclass in tactical brilliance from a player who had been here before. Belinda Bencic had a plan, and she executed it flawlessly. The Tokyo Olympic gold medalist and world number 14 had faced a left-handed player, Taylor Townsend, in the previous round, and used that experience to sharpen her preparation for Eala. "I think with every lefty it's a little bit trickier to return," Bencic explained after the match. "But I feel like I solved that pretty well." The Swiss star's tactics were simple yet devastating. She attacked Eala's second serve relentlessly, winning 72% of her first serve points compared to Eala's 46%. She forced the Filipina into mistakes, winning the final 8 games of the match after Eala had leveled the first set at 4-4. The 6-0 second set was a statistical masterpiece. Eala managed only 8 points in the entire set. The exhaustion Eala had described was not just a feeling, it was a strategy Bencic exploited. The Swiss veteran had been battle-tested. She had won this tournament as an 18-year-old in 2015. She had beaten the best players in the world and come back from injury to return to the top 10. She knew exactly what it took to win when your opponent was vulnerable. "Obviously, I know they were cheering for her," Bencic said, acknowledging the electric atmosphere. "But I was mentally prepared, and it's not something that bothers me so much." When Bencic walked off center court, she had not just won a match, she had delivered a lesson in how to defeat a tired champion. And the Toronto crowd, while disappointed, had witnessed greatness. The 6-0 bagel was a scar that would have broken most players. But when Alex Eala sat down to address the Toronto press room, she didn't hang her head. She counted her blessings. "I'm healthy, which is something I'm super grateful for," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of the loss. "It's something that's obviously on the top of my priority all the time. So yeah, I'm counting my blessings. I'm taking the lessons that I've had from these 2 weeks and hopefully implementing them even more in a better way in Cincinnati and New York." The words were a testament to the perspective that has carried the 21-year-old Filipina from promising junior to WTA champion. She had just been dismantled 6-4, 6-0 by an Olympic gold medalist. Her 7-match winning streak was over. The 12,500 fans who had packed Sobeys Stadium had watched their champion run out of fuel. But instead of making excuses, Eala did what she always does. She looked forward. It's always tough, of course, after a loss. But like I said, I'm looking back at these past 2 weeks as a really big positive. I think I've played really well. I've gotten through so many obstacles. The obstacles were real. A 20-hour rain delay in Washington, a scary ankle injury in Toronto, and the kind of fatigue that would have broken lesser players. She had played 8 matches in roughly 12 days, winning 7 of them. She had carried the hopes of an entire nation on her shoulders for 2 weeks and refused to let them down. "Today was physically, it pushed me a lot," she had said after her McNally victory, already feeling the weight of her grueling run. But even in defeat, Eala refused to let the loss define her. She knew that her body had simply given out, and that was okay. She knew that the exhaustion was a price worth paying for the moments that had come before. She knew that the Filipino community that had packed Sobeys Stadium, that had waved Philippine flags and chanted her name until their voices gave out, would still be there when she returned. "You can see, I'm kind of like a drop in the ocean when it comes to Filipinos and their pride for their culture and where they come from. Me, I do a lot to represent my country, and I'm very proud of it. You see, the stadium is full of people who do the same thing. That shows you the kind of people we are and how supportive we are of each other." When a champion runs on empty, even the most determined spirit can't overcome the weight of exhaustion. But when that champion has the love of an entire nation behind her, the journey is never truly over. What would you do if you had just carried a nation on your shoulders for 2 weeks and still found the strength to look ahead? For Alex Eala, the answer was simple. She would rest. She would recover. She would get a haircut and fresh nails, and she would come back stronger. Because she knew that the Toronto heartbreak wasn't the end of her journey, it was just the beginning of the next chapter. And when she said she was just a drop in the ocean, she was reminding everyone that the ocean was made of millions of drops, and they were all behind her. Wah.